Hello friends, welcome to your forecast for the week of August 24th through August 31st, approximately. Quick rundown on the astrology. Mars is in its stationary phase before going retrograde, which will happen the second week of September. But we're already starting to feel this, and essentially what I'm finding it's all about is letting go of old structures that we have allowed to define the way that we live, the way that we think, the way that we interact with other people, the types of interpretations that we have of our communication skills and communication interaction, and value systems that are not actually valid to us any longer and haven't been for some time, but we may have been finding ourselves continuously up against this notion that things that we thought we were done with, particularly on this spiritual path, when it comes to experiencing them outside of spiritual theory, let's say, and actually placing those values into circumstances in the material world that we all live in, because we are human beings and we live in 3D reality, whether we'd like to be on another plane or not. How are you projecting yourself into the world, essentially, is what the question is. And how much have you been allowing yourself to hold yourself back? And Mars obviously going retrograde, this essentially turns those questions inwards. So that drive to make progress and you know, even the frustration of not being able to make progress through this Saturn and Pluto energy of 2020, it's the level of energy that you felt externally since the beginning of this year, the ebbs and flows of that. But I mean, if you really look back on your experience of this year, you've probably consistently been engaged in a very different and focused energy flow. Well, this, focusing on the outside world, probably being fueled by the turmoil and the catastrophizing and, you know, of the media focus, and then the inner journey of processing the outer world, that is all now going to invert, and it's going to be the other way around. So it's going to be, who are you? What is it that drives you internally into the external world? And where are your hang-ups and that are responsible for the frustrations? Where are you still limited in your ability to be a fucking magician, right? That's what it's all about. Venus is also making some weird, well, Mars is squaring Saturn next week, so the week of this forecast. So, you know, Saturn is all those structures, and Mars is the ambition, the pedal to the metal kind of vibe. And so when they square, that amplifies any of the dynamism that is as problematic as it is in flow. It really is not necessarily such a negative thing, a square. It's difficult, but it's something that pushes us to make changes. And as it's just on the cusp of going retrograde, in addition to us moving out of Leo season, this is still like a really kind of last hurrah of that externalization of the Saturn, the Mars ball and chain, essentially, you know, coming through and just kind of thrashing, if that makes any sense. I mean, if you have a very peaceful, quiet life, you may not really feel this Mars energy in tangible ways. You may simply find yourself sometimes feeling really frustrated and not really knowing why, you know? But it all depends on how much activity we have in our life, how devoted we are to our lives and our activities as they are, how much we want to change, and how likely that change is to happen. But it still gives us the opportunity for the progression in our on our spiritual journey, right? So, I mean, no matter what's happening in our lives, we're all experiencing that. Venus will also be doing some funky things with Pluto. I can't remember what is happening with those, actually, to be perfectly honest with you. I think I've blocked them out because Venus has been, you know, kind of doing a number on us because of that Venus retrograde. The people that I learn from astrologically, I've really made a point of showing how much impact this Venus energy really is having on our experiences. And most of it, as with the Mars energy, is about identity. It's really about who we are. One is who we are in terms of our emotions, and one is who we are in terms of our external identity in many ways. I mean, that, you know, people don't, it's how we accomplish reaching the embodiment of who we are, or you know, the frustration in Mars is the parts of us that are not actualized. So that's all I'm going to say about the astrology, because I pulled cards in a really weird way. Not so much of my own volition, but first of all, the Sacred Destiny Oracle threw 3 cards out at us, and then from my Osho Zen tarot deck, I just took 4 cards and a general energy card, and then I took 4, and those will represent our metaphysical, spiritual, Zen path of the week ahead, and then the Rider-Waite traditional tarot cards that I pulled will be more in the sense of our materialistic manifestation, collectively and individually. Depends on how aligned you are with this reading, but I mean, the energy is basically well, they are universal because they come from the universe, and we're all well, our oneness is reflected through these readings. I hope that that makes sense to everybody that watches this, but that is essentially what this is. You know, yes, you can always get something out of watching a channel that specifically has messages for the 12 individual zodiac signs, but if you really went and listened to all 12 by any given reader, they're all very similar in many ways. I mean, what's going to imbue the readings with differentiation will be based upon the individual character traits of the sign, which again is very misleading because you'd have to look at your entire chart, obviously, in order to understand just how much you're determined by things other than your sun sign. And what else did I take? I took a Spirit Animal Oracle card, and I did take a Wisdom of the Oracle card. Yes, hello, Charlie. Why don't you make yourself comfortable? I'm doing a reading, okay? Yeah, that's where you like to lie. Perfect. So, we've got a lot here, and as you can see, focus is not always that easy. I did do a really good meditation earlier this evening, and it was all about manifestation, and you know, so much of the current energies are really about, as we will see in the different cards that we got, are about reality and what our reality is, and coming into the understanding that we create our reality with our thoughts, and that essentially what we are is we're all an individualistic representation of the one, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And we uniquely have the tools within us to manifest a unique variation on the life journey. And so our responsibility is to be alive and to feel fully engulfed in the energy of life, and to create out of that energy something that only you or I can create, right? So that gets a little bit complicated to stay focused on when so much of our attention is spent on the trivialities of the mundane world evolution, you know, the political, the social, the economic. These things are what everyone in our culture prioritizes, and you would think that to strip ourselves of those things would be inhumane by their understanding of life. But of course, those are absolutely just the masks that we wear in our 3D identity in order to be disenfranchised from our true calling and our true path. I mean, all of the restrictions of the things that I just mentioned actually rob the majority of us of any of our actual essence. We expect that in taking a job that our personality needs to be checked at the door. Certainly we should not be individuating further through our experience by most corporate standards or business practice standards in general. Everything of the hierarchy is false, right? Because nobody is better than anybody else. Some people might have it easier than other people, lucky them, but nobody's experience is worth more than another person's experience. So that's a tricky thing to remember when Mars is firing up our ego and making us all, you know, not forgetting, of course, that Mars is in Aries too, so that is the sign of individuation. So it's like very, it's pent up, you know. So when we get caught up in all of those crappy, stupid values, and we don't believe in ourselves, we can't actually create or manifest what we truly want. Because, as we've talked about in other videos, we have different minds. Our heart mind, which is where well, now I'm not going to define what it is exactly, but that's for every individual to sort of experience for themselves. But our heart mind is anything that feels true in terms of the anti-system manifestation in your life. You know, the things that make you happy, that make you smile, that make you laugh, that make you feel warm and fuzzy, that don't depend on a system identity or being a part of a system in order for them to prevail. That is what comes from your heart mind. Why am I talking about all of this? I hope that made sense. I'm going to just start looking at these cards because otherwise, let's go with one more I have to read because my rambling is, I'm sure, meaningful, but I completely have no idea what I'm talking about. This is the weekly Spirit Animal Oracle card. Cow Spirit. We have had Cow Spirit before, but you know, that cow is a very pretty cow, and look at all that adornment. Very floral cow, indeed. The miracles are endless. And what does Cow Spirit number 15 have to tell us? You are at a beautiful point in your life today, this week, I guess. For your needs are best... No, that's not right. You're at a beautiful point in your life today, for your needs are being met effortlessly and in so many ways. Fully embrace this truth by focusing on all you have right now, including the positive relationships that sustain you, the work you are proud to do to contribute to the world, and the activities that inspire you and nourish your soul. So, yeah, that's your heart mind, right? I'll try to focus. I'm really sorry that it's just the energy right now, I guess, that it feels a bit kind of, well, Martian. Cow Spirit nudges you to pay attention because this is the perfect time to focus on the choices, actions, and behaviors that you know feed your soul and bring your heart contentment. Now is also the time when you will see many of your projects and commitments that were set in motion in the past begin to yield valuable gifts that will bring you joy and love and sustain you for a long time to come. Stay positive and share your well-being with others. The more you share, the more you will manifest, so be generous. Cow Spirit promises you will never run out of miracles. And again, this comes down to a very kind of law of attraction vibey kind of thing, because that is everything about the energy of the week ahead seems to me to be about manifestation and understanding your alchemical process taking ownership of it and using it now to manifest the things that you need and desire within the within the realm of what is good for you, of course. Oh, and you know, just to sort of double up on that message, the what's it called? Wisdom of the Oracle card we got for the week is Treasure Island, and Treasure Island specifically, I don't even have the book around, but it speaks to us specifically of the law of attraction. Think about it, Treasure Island, it's like your intuition is telling you where the treasure is in life. What do you want? What do you want to see happen? How can you logically make that happen? And if your answer is, I can't, then there's your answer. Stop telling yourself that you can't. As simple as that sounds, and as naive as it may seem, this is how we create reality. It's something I'm only learning to do right now, but I'm determined to put it to good use and into practice, and that is to literally accept everything that happens as being perfectly aligned with the path that I or you are on, and therefore every experience, everything that happens, every perceived lack is in fact perfectly planned for your own abundance, and in order for you to be on the path towards finding what it is that actually will create your bliss, you know. Do I want to say anything else about that? No. But what I do want to show you is those 3 cards that came out from the Sacred Destiny deck, and they are sort of a perfect succession. They're very beautiful, these cards. I do love them so much. The first is Change. That's a pretty dreamy, childlike image there, right? The second, New Beginnings. And the third, Leadership. Now, I'm not really sure why polar bears are considered the symbol of leadership in this deck, but I suppose because they reflect their environment, right? I don't know why that made any sense to me, but it did. So, I'm not reading from the book for those, because those are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, change within itself. This is like, for me, it's the Chariot card. That's how it feels to me. So this is, you know, the alignment of the conscious and subconscious mind in unison, so that there are no blockages to our creative potential, and of course that naturally change leads to new beginnings, but it's like new beginnings that we're manifesting from a place of what we want, as opposed to things happening to us. This would be, you know, it shares the horizon with the 10 of Swords card, but it's a much more hopeful, beautiful concept in this envisionment. And as you can see, my candle is flickering around and casting shapes on that beautiful sky. So how do those things, well, I mean, this is the indication of where we're supposed to be headed, right? I mean, supposed to, where we are headed, you know. We may find ourselves in resistance to this, because many of us find ourselves in resistance to leadership. It's a very, very tricky character embodiment for many of us who have soul sensitivities and self-awareness spiritually, but I guess that's what the message is. It's time to step into leadership, and that means, you know, we might not have roles offered to us in our lives right now to be leaders, but we become leaders by acting like leaders. We all, if we trust our beliefs, if we trust our thoughts, if we trust our intuition, we naturally are leaders. That comes from divine, universal creation, within, without, as above, so below. You know, this is the alchemical process. So, can you believe in that? And can you change, reprogram your thinking? You know, we are in this really crazy, pivotal astrological period of history that will, you know, if this civilization survives, you know, this period will be one where people are like, oh my God, like, I can't believe that era happened. You know, and I'm not just talking about a pandemic or, you know, it's the Capricornian energy by the end of this year will have tossed this system that we live in upside down, all around, bashed it all around, basically cracked every ceiling so much so, and every foundation, that even if it appears for a period of time beyond it to stay as is, the aftershocks are going to just continue to be shocking, and freaky as fuck for anybody who's attached to the way things were. And the funny thing is, when we talk about that, I mean, you know, it sounds so fear-inducing, and that's really not what it's about. It's only scary if you don't believe that there's something better, you know? I mean, yeah, I get it that, like, if you own a house or whatever, you're not going to be, like, thrilled at the idea of economic turmoil, because that chaos is going to mean that your home will not have the same value. But it never had that value anyway. It's all speculation. It's all fake. Just like money not being worth the paper that it's printed on. It's all an illusion. It's a fabrication. And you pull out like one little piece of the puzzle and it doesn't make any sense anymore. And how quickly it crumbles is really not the point. It's crumbled already here and here, right? So let's make sense of that in our lives. Let's actually embody those values. Let's live as if the system is already crumbling. I mean, I certainly do. I mean, I'm not, like everybody, I struggle because, you know, I have to continue to exist in the 3D world. I can't just say, oh, well, you know what, it's all going to fall apart, so what's the point in looking for a job, you know, or what's the point in finding my own path, you know? This year has been an enormous opportunity for all of us to sit in quietude and actually observe ourselves in our environments, to come into natural alignment with the things that we appreciate, that drive us, that make us feel good, and also understand the things that make us not feel good, And it was the opportunity, it has been the opportunity and will continue to be the opportunity for as long as this Capricornian energy is so potent, and it's only getting more potent. We have not seen the most potent of it yet. That will be in November and December. But, you know, what we don't like about our lives, what we didn't like about who we were before, you know, it's the opportunity for all of that to go away for good, you know? And if you've been doing the spiritual work, then it probably has already happened, you know? So maybe that's what the leadership is of you know, coming out of that new beginning on the horizon. The leadership is giving ourselves permission to lead in our own lives. You know, you always hear the cliche of, you know, you're the star of your own movie. Well, be the diva that tells the director how you want to play the scene. Give yourself that permission. It's really hard. I get it. It's so hard for all of us to do that. We don't feel entitled. We've been brainwashed into feeling that we don't deserve to be the driver of our own chariot, cart, car, whatever you are driving, you know? And that's bullshit. That's the only thing that you're here to do. To be happy driving your own chariot. And for some of us, it takes a really, really long time. But if it takes a really long time, we also do it with such grace and elegance and poise and perfection, you know? So, pat yourself on the back for having had such a fucking hard time, right? I mean, that's the crux of it. That's the beauty. Okay. Now, I'm not doing like a major delving into the meaning of the Zen tarot cards this week. What I am doing is paying attention to the fact that 3 out of the 4 cards are pentacles. And I'm just going to go, I'm not going to do the equivalency. I'm just going to go with the vibe of the card and let them speak for themselves and intuitively explain. So this is our subconscious, metaphysical, ethereal, landscape for the week to come. So we start with the rebel, and you know, what I'm getting from this card is that, you know, the way that the change, the new beginnings, and the leadership manifest for us is through the idea of breaking free from the status quo. And ironically, the way that we do this from a pentacle perspective, our material world, is we slow down to accept, you know, we've been so, I think it's the Venus in Gemini air energy that like basically had us in such a non-tangible process in our lives where everything just kind of felt, whether it was comfortable or uncomfortable, it felt like we were just like floating, and it was so impossible to ground ourselves in anything. We had to do the grounding work in our lives on a personal level, through meditation, through whatever means we've had, but what's in our lives now is the manifestation of the hard work that we've done, the mental work that we've done, being in that floating space, but still, as we've been going through that energy, we've still been planting seeds, you know, and we may have forgotten that we've planted those seeds even. And so now with Mars going retrograde, this slowing down energy that we're seeing here is the correspondence of that. It's the idea that rather than it being slowing down in the sense of a lack of manifestation, it's just simply that energy of like looking at the seeds that we've planted, perhaps even seeing them grow to fruition at this time. But as a result of that, you know, the air energy that we were in, you know, is very fast and it's very kind of, you know, dynamic, but curious and bouncy and all over the place, and slowing down into the material realm. Ironically, you know, this was the ethereal read, but it's kind of telling us that, you know, we have to step a little outside of that now, and slowing down is actually becoming more earthbound into pentacle energy, being giving ourselves the permission to step outside of all of that pressure to be a spiritual manifestation, you know, and accept that we still are, you know, physical beings who have to exist in the here and now, and who are here to have a beautiful experience of that. So look for your rewards as you slow down, because they are there, they're coming, and when you're in that abundance of receiving, you get to give. And that's the consequence of this energy that we've just talked about. You know, we then reconnect with the physical world around us. We see ourselves as one. We move beyond our perceived differences, and we understand that in order to give, we have to receive, and in order to receive, we have to give. That goes for the physical, the material, as much as for the emotional. And that in turn gives us abundance, which is, I said I wouldn't do the equivalency, but it is King of Pentacles. So it's the mastery of material manifestation. It's almost like when you realize that this is essentially a perfect game, you know, that we are here to express our individuality on this path, in this body, in this lifetime, and when we accept when we accept that as a fundamental condition of the experience of this lifetime, it frees us up to receive materially, you know, because you're not in that fear place of, you know, needing to accumulate and hang on to anything. And it, you know, we got it last week, I believe, the Four of Pentacles reversed, you know, the idea of moving beyond the sense of fear of lack, you know. It's like we've made space for opportunity. So now you have to believe that the opportunity is there, right? If you tell yourself that there aren't any, if we keep telling ourselves that the world is shut down, that the economy is going to fall apart, and it is, that's going to you know, that's not an excuse to do nothing. You know, it's not an excuse to not continue to engage in what you're doing, because you're a unique manifestation in the world of the material as a professional. You know, again, your role in your professional life or in your creative life is that of leadership. So that's the clue, right? I forgot to tell you that our underlying energy for the entire reading is completion. So there's that piece of the puzzle coming in, you know, that last piece of the puzzle, the one that makes everything meaningful, purposeful, where it just clicks, you know? Oh, I'm a magician. I can make shit happen. I'm making shit happen all the time. I've always been making shit happen. I just didn't trust that it was me. In our traditional tarot, for our mundane, when I say mundane, I do not mean in the pejorative sense. I mean mundane as in the daily grind of life, you know, how things manifest in our individual identities. We start with what we're coming out of, the Two of Swords. This is, you know, basically, this completion is this person deciding to put down one of the swords. You know, this in turn makes this person conscious. The blindfold comes off. The moon then allows for the subconscious mind and the conscious mind to be in flow, to be aware of the surroundings, to pay attention to the fact that this person is grounded despite their subconscious mind looking a little choppy around them, and it's trusting that process. And so in dropping one of those swords, you have the one sword, the Ace of Swords, which is your truth. It's your wisdom. It's your philosophy. It's what drives everything about you. And it's universal. And what that other sword that we're giving up, you know, because the Two of Swords is that place of the fear of choice. Not, you know, it's analysis paralysis. It's not being able to move beyond the dilemma or the turmoil because, you know, there's always something else going on, you know, this, you know, that could, you know, flip the balance, so to speak. So, you make that choice by dropping one of the swords, and in dropping it, what we're dropping is this. The Four of Cups reversed is, it's the, well, you know what, I'm not going the negative route of the emotional despondency. This is really about, you know, when it's upright, it can also mean, you know, that the outside world has things to offer, but that we're so intently focused on our inner journey that we can't take anything more. You know, this person is on an inner journey. And, you know, by putting down that sword, that other sword, and eliminating sometimes when we eliminate the options and we just have one truth to focus on, it defines the path that we're going on, which then in turn allows us to step outside of ourselves. And, you know, it's been very essential that we all be on our inner journey, but, and that we do this work. But with that Mars retrograde energy, you don't have to worry about doing the work any longer because Mars is going to take care of it for you. It's going to happen consciously or subconsciously, but your inner life is going to, you know, you're going to get that drive to take all of that inner work and make it into something in your life. And, you know, this is the perfect harmony of the universe, you know, the way that our galaxy works, the way the solar system works, the way our planets work, you know, I mean, on the microcosmic level that we see our solar system, you know, is that every, you know, these direct and retrograde motions of planets and the way that they interact with one another, it's like the perfect math equation, you know, like whatever. It's just like everything about it is sacred geometry, you know? And those are the things that we know. I pointed out about the microcosmic aspect of our solar system because of the simple fact that, first of all, did you ever think to yourself that, like, the way that our planets orbit the sun, you know, as we perceive it, you know, spinning around at, like, you know, millions of miles an hour or whatever it is that it's doing, but it's like just so fast, and we're spinning, like everything's spinning and moving. You know, we never see what's on the dark side of the sun. Of course, it's not really the dark side of the sun, but on the other side of the sun, because we're constantly going around too. And there's nobody on any of those other planets in 3D that we're aware of that is sharing that information with us. So, you know, who knows how many other planets there are in our own solar system, you know, that we don't know about. But beyond that, you know, that's one little system. You know, then there's so many others and galaxies, and, you know, the universe is infinite and expanding constantly. So it's just like, woo, who knows what has an influence on us, you know? Who knows? There may be some entity, you know, thousands of planets away from Venus that intensifies the effect of Venus. You know, and if, you know, that the orbit of that planet may affect Venus and how Venus then in turn affects us and so on and so forth. So there's so much to discover, but sometimes just trusting in it and understanding that the vastness of it is perfect is enough to keep us smiling. I mean, you know, going, you know, so good riddance to the Four of Cups, because I think that we've all done plenty of contemplation, and it really is time for us to start birthing this new persona, or whatever you want to call, like, who you've become as a result of this transformation and moving into 4D awareness and consciousness and embodiment. You know, it's like, who are you going to be in that existence, no matter whatever happens around us, you know? That's an interesting thing to focus on. And of course, what do we get? We get the world. So that's what that is, the completion card that we had here. Change, new beginnings, the world. You know, we've got completion cards here. We've got, like, you know, we are the world here. So, you know, there's a big leveling up here on offer to us. And by coming outside of ourselves into the world, that gives us the opportunity to acknowledge this massive chapter shift. You know, the only way that, you know it on the inside. You know how much things have changed for you, right? Your perception, your knowledge, your way of experiencing life, you know, you may not even be conscious of just how much it's changed this year, but if that's the case, then give yourself some time to actually sit down and think about that, because it's a really important question for each of us to acknowledge, is, you know, to understand just how much we've changed. And so, you know, ask yourself, if you aren't really sure, you know, and the freedom that comes from the end of this cycle, this leveling up, is to an Ace of Cups. So that's an emotional rebirth. It is, well, it's a massive opportunity. I don't know what it is exactly. Shall we take a clarifier? Because that is the end of the reading, essentially. So, you know, I don't like to make it too short, as you know. So what is that Ace of Cups, Spirit? Can you please, do you want to tell us what it is so that we can get a little extra information? All of this is very exciting for me because even though it's not really my place to self-congratulate, but two things. First of all, it is officially a year this coming week since I started this channel. So that's something to celebrate, and thank you to all of you who have been on this journey with me. I couldn't have done it without you, and I wouldn't want to do it without you. And that's really exciting. And the other thing is it's my solar returns. Well, it's actually in just a few hours. It will have passed by the time this is uploaded. My birthday isn't until Sunday, the 23rd, but my solar return this year is at like 4 something in the morning on the 22nd. So happy birthday to me, right? How sad to wish yourself a happy birthday on camera, but you know, we're family. It's okay. The clarifier is the 6 of Wands. So what is the 6 of Wands? It's victory, but it's not just victory, it's you on your horse. It's you riding in to be celebrated. It's you coming in victorious from all of that inner work you have been doing this year, and it's time to explore the outside world. With a mask, of course. I wish you peace, love, joy, infinite opportunities for growth and self-awareness and compassion. And that's it. Love and light to all of you. Namaste.